Okay, so we'll discuss the poem A Dog Has Died by Pablo Neruda. Note on the poet. Pablo Neruda was the pen name and later legal name of the Chilean poet, politician Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basalto. So pen name usually authors used pen name either to conceal their identity, because during those days when there wasn't a democracy, so those who questioned the government or criticized the government were attacked or punished by the existing government. So those who didn't want to reveal the identity, or those who wanted to have a different name as a literary figure, they used pen name. Neruda, okay. Neruda wrote in a variety of styles such as erotically charged love poems, as in his collection 20 poems of love and a song of despair, surrealist poems, historical epics, and oddly political manifestos. So he wrote on a wide range of themes, ranging from love to surrealism, means it's partially real, fictional, almost near to fictional, historical. He wrote about history and about politics also. In 1971, Neruda won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Colombian novelist Gabriel Garcia Marquez once called him the greatest poet of the 20th century in any language. See, since it's an MCQ based, you should focus on um, factual questions. So you may get a question: who termed Pablo Neruda as the greatest poet of 20th century? You will get different names and you should choose Marquez. Then note on the poem. The poem is about a man who is reminiscing about his dog. Reminiscing means like daydreaming about his dog and thinking about how the animal has changed his outlook on life. The theme of the poem is death. The poet is expressing his emotions after his dog's death. The readers understand the man's unconditional love towards the dog, thus having no regrets as the dog left him for dogdom. So many times you call it as human kingdom. Okay, here he calls it as dogdom because he elevates his opinion about dog is to such higher extent. The poet's love for his dog is to an extent where he believes in reuniting with the dog in his afterlife. So this is very much important. Usually we intend to reunite with those other human beings with whom we were close, but the poet wants to reunite with his dog after his death. In this poem, imagery is used to describe the dog and how the poet felt towards him. He uses images that show how deeply he cared for and how much he valued for his dog. So how many of you have pets at home? Dogs or cats at home? So whoever has pets at home, you will be able to relate to this poetry better. So glossary: shaggy, having long, thick, unkempt hair or fur. Dogdom, the world of dogs or of dog fanciers. Porcupine, a large rodent with defensive spines or quills on the body and tail. Servile, having or showing an excessive willingness to serve or please others or pleasing others. Isla Negra, Isla, it refers to an island, is a coastal area in El Quisco commune in central Chile. Comprehension questions. See, there are different ways of how you approach any literary piece. When you are reading it for leisure or pleasure, or when you have sufficient time, you don't worry about this glossary questions or note on the author or summary. You will just read the poem, think, interpret it in your own way. But since you are studying this from an examination perspective, you should be specific. That's why I'm discussing note on the author, poem, glossary, and questions. So you should be aware this question should be in your backdrop while you read the text, because while reading the text only you can identify the answers. This is how you focus on reading comprehension also. What is the tone of the poem? Where does the speaker bury his dog in the poem? Who is the materialist in the poem? Who waits for the speaker's arrival in heaven in the poem? Comment on the imagery used in this poem. Comment on the theme of the poem. A dog will teach you unconditional love. If you can have that in your life, things won't be too bad. Substantiate. So you should focus on these questions. Okay, now we'll move on to the text. Lesson 6, A Dog Has Died, Pablo Neruda. A dog has died means it's already dead and he is recollecting his memories with the dog. My dog has died. I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. So he's now mentioning where did he bury his dog since it is dead. See, usually dogs are buried somewhere else. The dead bodies are buried somewhere else. It could be in the cemetery. Now in Bengaluru also they have a separate cemetery for animals, dead animals. But here he buried the dog in his own garden because he didn't want to have that separation. Okay, if he had buried it somewhere else, He couldn't have digested the fact that his dog is too far. Therefore, he buried it in his own garden. Someday I will join him right there. See, this is the love that the poet had towards his dog. Therefore, he says, someday I will join him right there. So you get to know that the dog is male because of this pronoun him. Okay, if it had mentioned, if he had mentioned her, it would have been a female dog. But now he is gone with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose, and I, the materialist. See, in the comprehension questions, there was a question, who is the materialist? The poet is the materialist here. And I, the materialist, who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I believe in a heaven I will never enter. So the poet says, one day even I will join him in death, but now he is gone with his shaggy coat. This is a description of the dog. So if you get a question on describe a dog, this is the description. He had a shaggy coat, bad manners, and his cold nose, and I, the materialist. Materialist means because he did not believe, the poet did not believe in the concept of heaven and hell. But the dog's love made him to transform himself. He started believing that there is heaven. Who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I believe in heaven, I will never enter. So the poet till now believed that no human being can ever enter heaven. Okay, but he feels that his dog deserves to go to heaven. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. So again, here he makes contradictory statements. In the first part of the stanza, he says he does not believe in any perception of heaven and hell, but here he says he believes in the concept of heaven, and his dog is eligible. Not only his dog, all dogs are eligible to go to heaven. And he also further says that even he is eligible to go to heaven because of his love towards dogs. And he says his dog will be awaiting for his presence. Means he's in an elegiac tone. He feels like dying. He feels like dying. He says that since my dog is not there, even I feel like even I should die, even I should go with him. Some people love dog to such an extent that the dog's departure they can't withstand. Many even have died. Hey, I will not speak of sadness here on earth of having lost a companion who has never survived. So he says, usually dogs are associated with, many a times dogs are considered as servants or it is meant to serve people. But he says, now I am not going to talk about sadness. I will praise my dog. And he says he has lost a companion. He's not saying he has lost a pet or a domestic animal. He says dog was his companion who has never survived. See, in friendship, there will be no question of boss and servant relationship. It will be friendship alone. Servile means a kind of servant attitude. Is friendship for me like that of a porcupine withholding its authority was the friendship of a star aloof with no more intimacy than was called for with no exaggerations. His friendship for me, like that of a porcupine, withholding its authority, was the friendship of a star, aloof with no more intimacy than was called for, with no exaggerations. He says he compares his friendship to two aspects. One is to porcupine, and other is to star. Many times we talk to supernatural elements, we talk to sun, sky, stars. He says just like at times we talk to stars. Okay, similarly, his friendship was with that of dog. Porcupine withholding his authority means what? Porcupine, whenever you attack it, it for its defense, it will shoot its needles against you. But out of friendship, it is withholding. Means even no matter whatever naughtiness he made, the author made or the poet made with the dog, though the dog was angry, it withheld its authority. It never bit him. And he says there are no exaggerations in our friendship. It was just normal. He never climbed all over my clothes, filling me full of his airs or his mange. He never rubbed up against my knee like other dogs obsessed with sex. So he says, my dog was a very decent one. It did not misbehave. See, he's contradicting. In the earlier one, in the previous chapter, he says, sorry, in the previous one, he says he had stanza, he says it had bad manners. Here he says it was well behaved. Means though it did everything, he's negating it. He is not talking about the negative aspects of dog. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need. the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he would keep on gazing at me with a look that reserved for me alone all his sweet and shaggy life, always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. So, so the author is mentioning, the poet is mentioning about the dog's routine. He says, no, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. So he says the dog dedicated its life towards this poet. And by looking at him, the poet only felt, why is this dog wasting its time by just roaming around the poet? But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he would keep on gazing at me with a look that reserved for me alone. All his sweet and shaggy life always near me, never troubling me and asking nothing. He says the dog was always his companion. Wherever the poet went, the dog accompanied him. The dog had dedicated its life to the poet, it says. Hey, how many times have I envied his tail as we walked together on the shores of the sea in the lonely winter of Isla Negra? So he says envied means feel jealous. See, whenever you find any dog, the moment it starts wagging its tail, it means that it is trying to be friendly. So he has envied, he has felt jealous about the way the dog feels happiness or experiences happiness. So here they are describing how they enjoyed time in the shores of the sea and in the island Negra, where the wintering birds filled the sky and my hairy dog was jumping about full of the voltage of the sea's moment. So he is describing how his dog enjoyed uh, the walk near the seashore. My wandering dog sniffing away with his golden tail held high face to face with the ocean's spray. So again, it's a description about the dog's enjoyment in the seashore. Wandering dog means it kept on moving around. If you have seen any dogs enjoying, you'll get to know. Later, I will show a few videos also related to a dog. Joyful, 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 as only dogs know how to be happy with only the autonomy of their shameless spirit. So this is very much important. He says, only dogs know how to feel happy. Joyful, 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 as only dogs know how to be happy with only the autonomy of their shameless spirit. Means he's trying to say that dogs are very much self-dependent. They are independent. They don't depend on anything else. See, many times we may have come across a lot of things in the social networking sites also. Human beings will be thinking of lot of aspects. Therefore, they are worried all the time. Whereas dog will think only about it, the present, the food. Therefore, it is happy. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died, and we don't now and never did lie to each other. So he says, there is, though my dog has died physically, I can't bid goodbye to my dog. Okay? And we don't now and never did lie to each other. He says, we never lied to each other. Many times, people who are very much attached to dog, they express their disappointments with the dog. Okay, whenever they feel disappointed or insecure, uncomfortable, they talk to dog. It acts as a kind of solace. See, a lot of research, psychological research has also revealed that having a pet at home will reduce your negative influences. Okay, will reduce your negative emotions because it acts as a uh, support to you. So now he is gone and I buried him, and that's all there is to it. So he says, and now he is dead and I buried him, and that's all there is to it. So he feels sad, disappointed. He talks about the good habits of the dog, bad habits of the dog. He talks about the happy moments that he experienced with the dog. Okay, but finally he says that now he has gone and nobody, we can't, there can't be any separation among us, and that's all I can say about my dog, he says. Okay, I hope you people have understood it. So in the entire thing, he just talks about, shares his experience